What's up, everyone? I hope you are doing excellent today on your hopefully long weekend. Today is Sunday, February 16th, 2020. This is Raphael Garcia here for episode 46 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. This is another one of our special edition shows where we're coming after a WWE pay-per-view that just ended moments ago, NXT TakeOver Portland. So we have six matches to talk about there, and just one little bit of a news story that came out today as well too. But before I jump into all of that, as always, I would like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to our content. You can catch me at rgarcia_sports across social media. And you can also follow MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter, where you'll find a lot of information about our newest content and our podcasts that come up each and every week. You can go to MMAratings.net to rate the fights and let us know what you're thinking about the upcoming mixed martial arts contest and interact with our content there. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at MMA Ratings, where we share this weekly podcast and also our MMA podcast that I do with Schwan every Tuesday, where we talk about all the action from the week and the upcoming fights and other news and stories from across the sport and combat sports in general. But again, thank you for taking the time to listen to us on this Sunday evening. It is 10:18 Eastern Standard Time, so I hope to take about 30 to 45 minutes of your time today talking about the pay-per-view that just ended. And it's funny because we always talk about the way the main event ends as setting the tone for the show as a whole. And I have some thoughts about the way this main event ended and some other matches throughout the day too as well. But overall, this was another strong NXT takeover to me. It was enjoyable from start to finish. There's some moments where I had my gripes, and if you follow me on Twitter, I was definitely carefree about sharing those, and I'll talk about some of those today as well too. But yeah, overall, it was a good show. I enjoy NXT Takeover probably more than any other bit of wrestling content that the WWE puts out because their shows are consistently up to this level. But there are some places where I think that they did miss tonight as well too. So we're gonna run through the card, and then we're gonna go back and talk about each and every match individual and kind of give you some thoughts about it as well too. So in the opener, it was Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic, where Keith Lee won and kept the NXT North American Championship. Dakota Kai defeated Tegan Knox in a street fight. Finn Balor defeated Johnny Gargano in a singles match. Rhea Ripley defeated Bianca Belair for the NXT Women's title. The Bruiserweights defeated the Undisputed Era for the tag team titles, becoming new champions. And Adam Cole defeated Tommaso Ciampa in the main event to keep the NXT Men's Championship. So let's kind of dive through each one of those matches bit by bit to give you some of my thoughts on the action from start to finish and just some of the things that were great about the matches and some things that weren't so great. So as mentioned, the night started with Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic, and the crowd was hot right from the start. Keith Lee was super over, and the fans were cheering for him as soon as he came out. Dijakovic came out with a Kobe and Gianna tribute T-shirt on, which I thought was pretty cool. But I was kind of concerned about this match starting off because I was thinking I didn't know how these two guys were going to elevate themselves over the matches they've had previously, which have been very strong matches. But these two, man, they stole the damn show and they walked out there with an intention of setting the bar for the rest of the night, and I think that they did that successfully. You would think that two big guys like this would start off in a slower match and pick up the pace, but they were high octane right from the start, hitting big moves, running around the ring, jumping over each other, just doing all types of stuff that you would not expect two big guys to do. But if you're familiar with NXT, you're familiar with these two guys in general, you've seen them do this stuff time and time again. But they have been killing it in their matches, and again, that they used this stage to kind of elevate themselves even higher. At the start, their timing was a little bit off, but that didn't stop the crowd from getting into them and cheering them on throughout the whole showcase. The first big moment I would like to kind of point out was when Keith Lee hit what looked like he was going to go for a German suplex at first, but it was more like a keg toss. And all throughout the night, German suplexes were the shit because everybody was hitting them. They were hitting them beautifully too, in damn near every match. The only match that probably didn't use a German suplex may have been the Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair match, but I may be wrong about that if I go back and look at it again. But everyone and their mom was throwing out the German suplexes tonight, but not this one because Keith Lee has basically tossed Dijakovic over his shoulder like he was in a strongman competition throwing a keg. There was a big corkscrew moonsault from Dominic. I guess a 2 count. I don't. Was that still the? Well, it looked like something that John Morrison would be doing, and he landed it well, but he didn't get the pinfall there. So they continue to go back and forth. Avalanche, feast your eyes. That man, I don't know how he was able to get over. Keith Lee was able to get over on that feast your eyes because for a second there, it looked like he was going to come down on his head and neck, and that would have been good for anybody involved. But somehow he got over, and he got another 2 count out of that. Lee hit a nasty pounce that sends Dijakovic's head like into the bottom turnbuckle. For a second there, I was like, that looked kind of nasty. It's like these are the type of crashes that you expect someone to end up with a concussion from, but that did not occur as he was able to hold his ground and the match kept going. The next big moment came when Keith Lee was sitting in the chair at ringside, basically between the two announce tables, and Dijakovic does a springboard flip into Lee into the chair. But people are like losing their mind. And there's a big chokeslam spot where they are trying to exchange chokeslamming each other. They're doing backflips out of it. Dijakovic did a much better backflip than Keith Lee, because Keith Lee again almost landed on his head. There was a powerbomb spot where Lee hits 2 powerbombs. In the first one, the way that Dijakovic fell, he makes it look like he injured his neck. So he's holding his neck and he basically hulks out of it and attacks Lee just to get powerbombed again. And he kicks out as well. And a very, very, very close 2 count. But the way they were going back and forth and they're selling it. It's not the same type of selling that everybody kind of like loves, where guys are like actually writhing in pain, looking like they're hurt. But they were selling in a way that made you, and maybe it was the fact that they were selling such big moves that made it look like maybe they are actually hurt here for a second. Like somebody's going to the hospital and somebody's getting concussed here. I didn't quite like the ending of it. It looked a little bit off, where Dijakovic goes for a feast rise again, but he can't get Lee up, and he feigns his back is hurt, and he turns right around into a big bang from Lee, and he gets the 3 count from there. So at the end, they shake hands, hug it out, and they show each other respect. But this was a fantastic match. If you don't watch anything else from this show, I would suggest you watch this one. They go a little more than 20 minutes from start to finish, and everything was good for me, except for they looked a little bit off at the timing looked a little bit off at the very start, and that finish, the finish was what it was. But these two big guys have been going for 20 minutes, so clearly they must have been gassed and out of it at that point in time. But man, they excelled in this spot here. As I said, they've been having a lot of matches against each other, a lot of matches together, and to show that they can continue to elevate each other and continue to put on different, like the same match but different in various ways, really like lets you know how talented they really are. I love seeing these two guys together, but I would like to see them go off in their own separate ways. I expect to see Damian Priest be the next challenger for Lee at some point in time. He's someone that looks like a rock star. I don't know what they do with Dijakovic. I think he's in the right place, being on NXT. I just don't see him standing out too much on the main roster, even regardless of his size. Same thing with Keith Lee. I was tweeting out this after the match. Like, I really don't want to see him get called up to the main roster. I mean, I've talked clearly about how I don't think that the main roster does its men and women of color well. So that's always going to be a big talking point to me. But I think that in NXT, Keith Lee is in the right spot. I do think he can be NXT champion there. I mean, he has to be NXT champion at some point in time, right? I mean, I don't see why not. Like, what would stop them from putting him in that position? I think that he can go in there and have a great match for anyone, regardless of size. So let's see what that really looks like. But all in all, again, this was a excellent match to get you invested in both of these guys, invested in both of these men. And as I've been saying from the start, I was not that sold on Keith Lee when he first came over to NXT. I knew who he was. I was familiar with his work outside of WWE, but I just wasn't sold on him. But over the last year or so, that's definitely changed, and I am excited to see what happens next with him. Then there was a second match, and I'm going to be 110% transparent about this. I gave zero fucks about the feud between Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai heading into this week. As I've said multiple times on the shows leading up, I said it on the preview show yesterday, this feud did not interest me at all. And for a hot second, I'm like, I don't know how they are going to be able to go out here and keep this crowd hot and keep this crowd live. And I will be the first to say they proved me wrong in so many different ways that, in my opinion, you can easily say this match stole the show. The ending, again, the ending wasn't that great, and I didn't like it, and we'll get to that in a second. But everything else from Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai stole the show to me. Tegan Knox comes out, and Dakota Kai attacks her right from the start, and they're going hard. Right from the jump, like 2 minutes in, Tegan Knox eats a what was it, a tornado DDT onto the barrier that had been knocked down, and like she's like laid out. Like they're bringing out all types of weapons. They brought out a cricket bat, which I haven't seen since college. We used to use those when we were hazing back in the days, in back in the old fraternity days. And she brought out a cricket bat, which is perfect because they're both from that part of the world. I think they're both from well, one's Australian, I think, and the other is from New Zealand, maybe. But when I saw that, I popped for that. And Kai swings it, she misses and hits the ring post, and it hurts her hands. Like all that right there was excellent. The table comes out, they don't use that quite yet. Tegan eats a was it like the trash can lid right to the face, and the way she took that shot, I was like, ooh, like, whew. She took that joint straight to the face. They took a lot of nasty bumps in this match. Tegan takes a chair shot where it was almost kind of like the Rob Van Dam Terminator, or the Van Daminator from back in the day, where you're holding a chair and your opponent kicks it into your face. But she took that clean to the top of the head. There was the laptop to the knee. There was the duct tape spot where Dakota Kai duct taped Tegan Knox's hand to the kind of like the ring post, and she hits her with two running boots to the face. I mean, there were some tough spots here. My favorite one was when Tegan hits the German suplex on Dakota Kai onto the trash can. Like that was a high elevation German suplex, and I want to see a gif of that because her backwash and everything was perfect. It was an excellent German suplex, and as I said earlier, suplexes were coming out all over the place tonight, and this match right here didn't held its own when it came to what the men were doing. The finish of this, though, as I said, Tegan pulled the table out and she set it up on the outside of the ring. It wasn't used, and she brings it inside. She hit Dakota Kai with a nasty shining wizard, but she's puts her on the table. She puts the chair around her neck like she's basically gonna break her neck by jumping onto it. But then someone named Raquel Gonzalez runs in, and I have no idea who she is. At first glance, she looks just like Sonya Deville, except bigger, like taller, more, probably more muscular, just a bigger woman. But in the face, she looks just like Sonya Deville. And Morrow is trying to get her over, Morrow and Nigel, but the crowd is chanting, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I'm like, this is not good. And someone actually tweeted out a picture of her when she was signed to the Performance Institute, and she doesn't look anything like that. So it's interesting that this is how they decided to end this match, and it also sent an alarm to me too about the women's title match. But we'll get to that in a second. But Raquel Gonzalez comes out, she attacks Tegan Knox, pushes Dakota Kai off the table, and then I guess it was kind of like a choke slam. Maybe it was like a choke toss, but Knox is supposed to go through the table. The table doesn't get it. Like it just falls over, and it looks like she cracks her head, the back of her head on the table as she slides off. But she's like laid out. Kai's Dakota crawls over, gets the 1, 2, 3 for the win, and then Raquel comes in and helps her up, and Kai's looking all shocked, like, "What's going on? Why are you helping me?" But I wasn't feeling that finish. If they wanted to do that and have, let's say, have Knox get the win, but then have Raquel come in to attack her and side with Kai to kind of keep that feud going a little longer, I would have been okay with that. And this is kind of why, when you look back at the reason why they did the Dakota Kai Tegan Knox match on Takeover, or not Takeover, excuse me, on regular NXT television, this is why some people question that, because now you had to escalate it with the street fight, and like, where do you go from here with this being the finish? Because it just seems like there's nowhere really else to go. But now you've inserted this new character with Gonzalez being there, and people are going to want to know who she is. They're going to want to know what she's about, what she can do in the ring. But what do you have her do? Do you have her squash Knox? Do you have her, like, why is she teaming with Dakota Kai? Like, there's so many different angles and so many different questions to be asked about this that it just didn't seem like for this to be the finish at this point in time. But Dakota Kai gets the win, and that happens in 13 minutes and 24 seconds. That brings us to what is my favorite match of the night with Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano. And this match was everything to me. It had storytelling, it had pacing. I wouldn't have changed anything about this match. Even with the way the show ended, and we'll go over that in a second, but Johnny Gargano, he continues his ring gear being modeled after Marvel characters. He's done the Wolverine character before. I can't remember who else he's done. I think he's done Spider-Man too as well, but he comes out as Carnage, and that kind of exemplified what this match was, because it was nothing but Carnage. They start out with some mat work, and then they pick up the pace, but they're hard hitting from the very start. Like, a lot of clean, hard shots from multiple different spots throughout the match. They're basically beating the hell out of each other. So Gargano's getting the upper hand until Balor hits him in a leg whip while he's kind of like straddled the top rope. And those leg whips always look painful to me, because basically I know what that can do to your knee real quick. And that's when the tide turns and they're exchanging, going back and forth from that point. Um, one thing I really love is when Balor starts stomping on people, whether it be like the leg, the body, or the head. He's talking so much shit, and he was doing that tonight, stomping on him, talking so much shit every time he did. Excuse me, every time he did so, asking Gargano if he knew who he's in there with. So it was, I mean, like that the heel, the Prince Finn Balor, is something we've been wanting for so long, or we didn't even know that we wanted it, and now that we're getting it, like, I really don't care to see the Demon come back anytime soon. The story being told here was Balor working the knee and Gargano working on the arm. There was a sequence where Gargano does his like the neck breaker on the knee, and he even sells the knee injury there too. It's like, and it's the little things like that that matter the most in these types of matches. But they continue going back and forth. Um, Let me see. The One of the big spots I liked was when Balor has Gargano like strung across the second rope, and he goes for the double stomp to the back from the top, but misses, and Gargano uses that into the springboard DDT. A couple of shotgun drop kicks, one inside the ring that doesn't get to the finish, but then we get another one. Actually, Gargano does a shotgun drop kick as well on the outside, and Balor does one running across the tables. He shotgun drop kicks Gargano off of the table into the barricade. That actually sets up the finish where he rolls Gargano back into the ring, hits him with the coup de grace, and then the 1916 to get the win. Now, let's talk about that coup de grace real quick. I don't know about you, but whenever I watch those, even as a heel, I'm not Gargano, goodness, even as a heel, Balor seems to dig his heels into his opponent's body a little bit more. when he's coming off of the top rope. Like this one just looked stiff as all hell. There's the one that he gave AJ Styles a couple years back when they had that um, fantasy matchup at what was that, TLC or whatever event that was, Fastlane, where everyone got sick. But to see him hit that on Gargano, that just looks like it hurts. Then he hits that nasty 1916 brainbuster. I don't want this guy to ever change. Then after he pins Gargano, he sits on his chest, choking him and slapping him, talking shit to him for a little bit longer. Then he gets up on a rope and basically lets everybody know, if you're gonna come at me, you better not miss. And like this Gargano is the best version of him that we've seen. Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful was tweeting out about this, how this is easily the most interesting version of Balor, and he is over. I mean, he's always been over, but he was a little bit boring on the main roster. This version of him here, I'll take it all day, every day. And if this version of him was to go back to the main roster and be a foil for someone else, I think that would help him get over, and I think that would help him stay over. But again, we never know what those guys are going to do with someone. But either way, this right here was my favorite match of the night. And again, if you miss, if like you can't go wrong watching this match as well. I don't think people will remember it as much if you're thinking about some of the things that happened on this card. But there's nothing wrong with anything about this match here from start to finish, in my opinion. I wouldn't change anything. It's definitely worth going back to watch again. I may have to do that tomorrow. But Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano, they go for 27 minutes and 22 seconds. Then we come to the women's championship match. And for the last month, maybe two, probably longer than that. Actually, no, month, because the Royal Rumble was on the 26th last month. I've been screaming at how we need the women's title at Mania to be a triple threat match. If Charlotte is going to challenge Rhea Ripley, while they had this match for Bianca Belair already planned out, I wish they could have found a way to make it a triple threat. They may still do that. I mean, they've changed things time and time again. We saw Kofi Mania get changed last year. We've seen things change. But they missed. This is the second opportunity in maybe 2 weeks that they've missed to have Belair look strong. And this match was okay. It was a solid match, but it was a solid match on a night of very strong matches. So I'm sure people are going to use that as a detraction to Belair. I'm sure Sam Roberts is already out there saying whatever he wants to say about Bianca, but this is her third time losing in a women's title match. I think she lost to Shayna twice, and now there's this one. But so her music hits, and she comes out in Black History Month inspired gear. I mean, like that right there, I almost jumped out of my seat for that. Like that got me hyped and it got me behind her. So she comes out, Ripley comes out, and Ripley's getting the advantage at the start of the match using her power basically. Belair still needs some work in some areas. That she tried to do a vertical suplex, they had to go back to it. That didn't look so great. And the crowd was kind of dying down during this match too as well. Until we see Bianca pull out that hair whip that she usually does, and she's slapped the shit out of Ripley with it. I wish she used that more often. The crowd got back into it when Bella press slammed her as well. But they go to the corner, and they look like they were going for a superplex spot, but Ripley uses that to hit her riptide off of the second rope, and she gets the clean pin, 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, okay, but right after that, Charlotte Flair comes out, attacks Rhea, hits the natural selection, and lets her know that she's going to take her on in that match in WrestleMania. That's been like the point that they've been trying to make for the last couple of weeks, that Rhea wants Flair to challenge her at WrestleMania for the NXT title. Flair also attacked Belair, pushed her into the steel steps as well. What I was hoping for is a finish that saw Charlotte attack them before the match was over. Give us a non-finish. This would have been an opportunity for them to get a non-finish over and get it over in a way that wouldn't have pissed off the fans so much. people have been clamoring for this match to be made into a triple threat. I wrote about it. So many different people have been talking about it. Alex Palowski, Sean Ross Sapp, so many other people have been talking about it that this is a prime opportunity for this match to be made into a triple threat. Last year, we didn't need that to be a triple threat. Yes, Charlotte's inclusion made it better, but this is an opportunity for Charlotte, who is a megastar at this point in time in the wrestling community, to give some rub to both Rhea and Bianca Belair. Instead of giving rub to both, as it stands right now, she's only giving rub to one, and that just doesn't. I mean, that's not enough for me. I think this was an opportunity that they could have capitalized on, and they could have made Belair look like an even bigger star. Again, like you saw what she did at the Royal Rumble this year. I mean, she basically stole the show there. A couple years back at WrestleMania 34, or maybe maybe it was 34, where she hit that 450 splash off of the top during the women's battle royal there. It's like this is yet another moment where it's like a woman of color. We have it the same thing with Sasha. We have it with Bayley. We have it with Naomi, with Ember Moon when she's healthy. There's so many women of color on that roster that are workers who can go out there and carry the show, but they're constantly being pushed second fiddle to white women. And that's the same thing that's happening here. I hope that this gets fixed. I hope that we get a situation where Rhea is defending against both women. Like, I so hope that's the story that we get out of this. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if that's going to be the finish. And I don't know if that's going to be the outcome. I can't promise that that's going to be the case because you never really know. Like I said, WWE makes changes and they book based off of what they think is best for business. Maybe they make the shift, maybe they don't. But either way, I hope that we get an opportunity where we see Belair get some shine as well too. But either way, Ripley gets the win at the 13-minute mark in this match here. That brings us around to the tag team titles being on the line, where the Bruiserweights faced off against the Undisputed Era. As I said earlier, the Bruiserweights won the tag team titles. They won it in a little under 17 minutes. This was a good match. I mean, this was more of the same type of stuff you would expect from these two teams. It was definitely felt like a Dusty Classic type of match. A lot of good striking from the very start. But before I even go there, actually, I kind of forgot. The Undisputed Era comes out first, then the Bruiserweights come out, and they're riding in that golf cart with the Dusty Classic Cup on the top of it. We go into that Bobby Fish tongue twister by Matt Riddle. They even had a bouncing fish on the screen and on the jumbotron, etc., etc. I mean, it is what it is. I wasn't too hyped for it because I was still kind of angry about the match beforehand, but that's just me. But this match it was good. The crowd was super hyped for Matt Riddle, as they always are. He gets a hot tag, comes in, and he hits a nasty sequence. It was actually a lot like that Cesaro sequence from a couple years ago. Was it last year maybe? But that Cesaro sequence where he's hitting all the moves on everybody inside the ring, outside the ring, going just bonkers. Riddle had a hot tag sequence that was just like that, and the crowd is always going to be hyped for that guy. The go to sleep again, followed by a German suplex. Another suplex being used that just looked fantastic. This match had a ton of them. I like the wheelbarrow, the code breaker that Roddy hit into the wheelbarrow suplex by Bobby Fish. That was great. Not Roddy, excuse me, Matt Riddle and Kyle O'Reilly, they exchanged some strikes, and both of them exchanged German suplexes in the ring. Another great sequence. I love the fact that Riddle is out here stealing all of Goldberg's moves. A lot of people have talked about that. He hits a couple of spears, and he hits a jackhammer as well too. I doubt that that's ever going to happen. I wish we lived in a world where WWE did business like that to just kind of give people what they wanted. If you told me if they did an NXT, let's say, a regular Wednesday, and they announced that Goldberg will be having a match against Matt Riddle, that show would get stupid. Like, that episode would get stupid ratings, in my opinion. You start talking about it, you program it for 2 weeks, book it out for 2 weeks out, make that the main event. they will win the ratings war that night. But that's not the case, and instead we're getting the Bruiserweights winning the tag team titles now. This win, I mean, it's great to see them with the belts. It's great to see Matt Riddle win a title here, but we all kind of know where this is going. We all kind of have the feeling that this is going to lead to a situation where Pete Dunne turns on Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle being the fan favorite that he is right now, he's just going to become a bigger star from that moment, and he's going to be super over then. And I just forgot where I was. Sorry, I just had a brain fart there. But yeah, they get the win there, and we want to see the situation. Like we all know what was going to happen. We know that Pete Dunne's going to turn on him at some point in time, I believe, and Matt Riddle's going to be the bigger face out of the two. Not sure how long that's going to last, but it's a good win. Good title change on NXT Takeover here. So that brings me to the main event where we have Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa, and I gotta say, I'm kind of feeling a bit conflicted about this match right now, just a little bit, just a little bit, because all in all, it was a fantastic match. They wrestled for half an hour, 33 minutes, and there was a lot to kind of take in throughout that match. But again, it comes back to the finish. The finish just didn't do it for me, and this is the third time tonight where I'm looking at the finish like, I'm not too sure about this one. This one right here is more perplexing to me than most. So Tommaso comes out first, looking jacked, and then Adam Cole comes out by himself. And this is a slow starting match. They are exchanging holds left and right, and Tommaso's getting the upper hand. He starts getting more and more brutal early in the match, and I like the bit where Adam Cole is trying to like slide away, begging for him to stop. It's real Shawn Michaels-esque, like the son of a bitch type of heel character, but he's the psycho killer. He's out there doing all types of shit. When he has him in the chair, he's hitting him with the knees outside the ring. Fantastic spot. The crowd is loving that, eating that up. But the first big moment of the match comes, to me, in my opinion, when Adam Cole hits him with the wheelbarrow suplex into the table. And again, the table did not budge. Tonight's tables were not here for anybody's shit because they were not breaking. They were not budging. Like people had to go through them twice to get them to actually break. And even when they did the slow motion piece of it, it didn't quite look like Tommaso's neck hit the table, but the way he crumpled and yelled out, grabbing his head, and we know about his neck issues, it made everyone like just get into the moment. Like that was a story that was going to go on for the rest of the match. And then from there on, Adam Cole just did more and more damage to Tommaso Ciampa's neck, hitting him with all types of shit. And it was just like every time he fell down, he would grab his neck, kind of the same way. Well, not kind of the same, it's the same exact way that whenever Daniel Bryan goes down and grabs his head, you know what he's doing. And people get a little bit cringy around that because like again, this guy's had neck injuries that he was gone for a year, and I don't even know like how like the serious nature of that makes me wonder like how is he still taking some of these bumps. But they continue doing their thing, and again, that's the main storyline here. Adam Cole keeps delivering more and more damage to Ciampa's neck. Ciampa has some big moments as well too. He hits the airway crash off the top, and Cole kicks out at 2. There's 2 power bombs that they need to break the table on the outside, and then Adam Cole hits a Panama Sunrise outside the ring. And yeah, it's a protected move, but still, like that looks sick. Then they get back into the cage. Oh, excuse me, not the cage. Excuse me. They get back into the ring. Cole kicks out of a fairy tale ending at 2. Then there's some dueling cross faces where neither man tap. You kind of knew you were going to see the rest of Undisputed Era. They come running out. Roderick Strong comes out first, distracting the ref. Then the rest of UE comes out. There's a bunch of attacks there, a bunch of different moments where you thought that was going to be the end of it, but Tommaso Ciampa keeps kicking out. And for a second there, I want to talk about all these moves that were kicked out as well too. So all of these moves getting kicked out. Like so, as I said, Adam Cole kicked out of the fairy tale ending. I think he kicked out of that twice. He kicked out of Tommaso Ciampa kicked out of 3 super kicks in a row. Then the last shot, He kicked out after getting hit with a high-low by Adam Cole, excuse me, by Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish outside the ring. Then he gets rolled back inside. They kicked out of a bunch of shit tonight. And while I know that raises the suspense of the match, you got to start to wonder, what does it take to put one of these guys away? And like in the future, what is it going to take to put these guys away? Because it always makes you think of, they have to up the ante every time they're out. As I said, for the first match of the night, we've seen Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic go against each other so many times. How do they continue to up the ante? And they were able to do that. Now with this situation here, how do they up the ante? What is it going to take to put Tommaso Ciampa away whoever he goes up against next? Well, what we saw here is that Johnny Gargano comes out and it looks like he's there to cheer Ciampa on, but instead he takes the title and he hits Ciampa in the head. And he rolls back into the ring. Adam Cole pins him for the 1, 2, 3. Now, I don't know what to make of that, because we've seen these two guys do battle all last year. They tore it up, gave us some of the best matches in professional wrestling last year. They got back together kind of as pseudo heels, working together. Then they got back as faces last month, I think it was, for NXT TakeOver UK, where they had their match against Mustache Mountain. So now you have to wonder, is Gargano, clearly he's a heel, but he's coming off of that match with Finn Balor earlier today, or earlier the night. So it's like, why is that the switch? I personally thought that Ciampa was going to win this match, and then his next challenger was going to be Finn Balor. That's the direction I thought that they were going in, but instead they hit us with this, and you have to wonder, okay, they're going back to Ciampa and Gargano, but why? How can they be any different after the way that things escalated last time? How can this feud be any different this time around to keep us engrossed in what's going on? Yeah, they may have switched sides where Ciampa's the face and Gargano's the heel, but how does that work this time? Like, that doesn't interest me as of February 16th. It just doesn't. It doesn't get me excited about what's new for not only NXT as a whole, but both of these two men. And even for Adam Cole, it's like, where does he go next? Because I really thought the story was going to be Undisputed Era losing all the belts. They talked about the privacy. They're losing all the titles. What's next for them? People were actually kind of thinking that they were going to get called up to the main roster, which I don't think would have been good for them. But you still have Adam Cole as a champion. I think Adam Cole's a great champion. I think he fits very well for what NXT needs as a champion. But what do you do next with him? Finn Balor can't be a top challenger, can he, at this point in time? Because that would be a great match. But how does that dynamic work as two heels? There's just so many questions coming out of this. And yeah, these questions are going to make me watch. They're going to make me pay closer attention to their main title and like their main storylines, but I feel a little bit deflated after the way the main event ended. I thought we were going to get something different. I thought we were going to get something new, but that's just not the case. And we just gotta kind of wait and see what comes out from that. But all in all, the main event and the way the main event finishes really sets the tone for what people remember from the rest of the night. I think this was a good main event. It was long, but it wasn't boring type of long. So I think all in all, people are going to have a good memory of this showcase, and they're going to have positive things to say. So yeah, that's really it. I wanted to talk about that and just kind of give a quick hit to this story about Sasha Banks. It came out earlier tonight that she has filmed some episodes or some scenes for The Mandalorian season 2, which I think is amazing. We all know that that was probably one of the biggest shows to watch last year when it was on Disney Plus, and seeing that she's in the second season, I'm looking forward to seeing what that means for her career. I'll probably look at that story and talk about it more later on in the week as some more news comes out from that. But I just wanted to really kind of say that. But as always, thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. My name is Raphael Garcia, and you can catch me again, as I said, on Twitter at rgarcia_sports, same handle on Instagram. MMA Ratings is the platform where we share all of our combat sports content, and you can go to the website MMAratings.net where you can rate the fights. Let us know what you think of the fights that have just passed and upcoming battles. We have a MMA ratings podcast that goes out every Tuesday where we talk about the most recent fights and any of the fight news coming up. Let's Talk Wrestling. This podcast is usually on either Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, kind of depending on what my calendar is like. But that show's out there as well too. You can follow MMA Adam Martin, Schwan Humes at Black Jordan Breen, and Michael Ford at MTF4 as well on Twitter to catch all of their content there. Or Michael Ford is MTF3 with the Roman numerals. My apologies. But again, thank you for taking the time to listen to our content. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube at MMA Ratings. You can catch this podcast over on Spotify, iTunes, and all the other Anchor, Stitcher, and all the other podcast platforms. You can catch us all there. Thank you again for listening to our content. I hope you enjoyed NXT TakeOver. Hope you enjoyed this recap show. And we'll be back later on this week. We'll be back Tuesday with MMA Ratings, that podcast, and probably on Thursday with another wrestling podcast as well too. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your long weekend, and have a great night.